Hi everyone, welcome to Breastfeeding with Sarah. I'm Sarah, your lactation consultant. In this video, we will explore the reasons why we choose to breastfeed. We'll look closely at the current research available that helps inform our choices, as well as explore personal experiences that support our decisions. We'll also discuss that even though most new moms do intend to breastfeed, the majority are stopped short of reaching their goals. So we'll look closely at the social justice and equity issues around access to support and social media pressures that often undermine us. Along the way, we'll see pictures and hear real stories from the Breastfeeding with Sarah community. Come join us. Let's talk about why we choose to breastfeed. Breastfeeding and human milk are the normative standards for infant feeding and nutrition. The short and long-term medical and neurodevelopmental advantages of breastfeeding make breastfeeding or the provision of human milk a public health imperative. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends exclusive breastfeeding for about 6 months after the birth. Furthermore, the AAP supports continued breastfeeding as long as mutually desired by mother and child for 2 years or beyond. These recommendations are consistent with those of the World Health Organization.
Breast milk, especially when it comes from the mother of the child and goes directly into the child, is the most specific, individualized, highly nutritious profile that you can provide. That was the other striking thing that I learned from Sarah. That is the immediate environment that you're in and whatever challenges this environment provides, the saliva of the baby communicates that to the breast of the mother, and the mother makes just the antibodies that the baby needs in just this moment.
The research shows why the health effects of breastfeeding are so profound. Extensive data confirm that many acute and chronic pediatric disorders such as otitis media, acute diarrheal disease, lower respiratory illnesses, sudden infant death syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, childhood leukemia, diabetes mellitus, obesity, asthma, and atopic dermatitis occur less frequently among children who are breastfed as infants. Some of these outcomes may be secondary to the biologic composition of human milk, which contains anti-infective and anti-inflammatory factors, oligosaccharides that provide a healthy gut microbiome, growth factors, microRNA that are important in modulating epigenetic regulators, cells such as neutrophils, leukocytes, and stem cells, and bacteria including bifidobacteria and lactobacilli, all with important roles in establishing the neonatal immune system and gut microbiota. Studies emphasize the importance of the early critical window in the first year of life during which breastfeeding can induce long-term effects. Let us be very clear what this means. It has been estimated that improving global breastfeeding could prevent 823,000 annual deaths in children younger than 5 years. This doesn't just apply to the less resourced developing nations of the world. For example, even in the United States, research shows that overall infant deaths decrease by 26% if babies are breastfed. We also choose to breastfeed because we know it can have a huge and lasting impact on our own health. Improving global breastfeeding could prevent 20,000 annual deaths from breast cancer. Any breastfeeding was associated with decreased overall risk of ovarian cancer by 30%. The association increased with increasing duration. In my experience, talking with literally thousands of breastfeeding families, I found that they typically start out being motivated to breastfeed because of the effects on their child's health, but later, when they look back on their breastfeeding journeys, they overwhelmingly reflect that it's the attachment and developmental enhancing benefits for the child that were the most profound impact they valued for breastfeeding. The research supports these experiences. A prospective population-based birth cohort study of neonates was launched in 1982. When the cohorts reached 30 years of age, IQ, educational attainment, and income of 3,500 of the participants was measured. In the adjusted analysis, participants who were breastfed for 12 months or longer had higher IQ scores by 3.8 points, more years of education, and higher monthly incomes than did those who were breastfed for less than 1 month, after accounting for multiple confounding variables. In addition, studies have documented the importance of longer breastfeeding in increasing maternal attachment. One analysis of data from 1,272 families found that longer breastfeeding duration, up to age 3 predicted increases in observed maternal sensitivity, for example, maternal responsiveness to infant, affect, flexibility, and ability to read infants' cues up to age 11 in children after accounting for multiple confounding variables.
It all intertwines because I learned that as a mother breastfeeds and she's close to her baby, it gives off a hormone that helps relax the mother, and it also relaxes the baby. So it's kind of this circular, we're relaxing each other kind of thing that is missing when you're just formula feeding. Your body isn't releasing the same hormone.
Breastfeeding became the most important tool for soothing, connecting, way beyond, way beyond the physical food, like way beyond physical nutrition between my son and I.
I'm a licensed marriage family therapist, and so I've gone through the master's program learning all about developmental psychology and how important that first phase of a human's life is in bonding and attachment. One of the biggest kind of predictors of lifelong mental health. And so that's a really big thing, because as a parent, we all want our children to thrive. That's like our biggest hope and desire and dream. And so that's kind of the piece that I've held on to as like, well, why? Because when things get hard, which they do and they will, specifically in this breastfeeding journey, it's like, why are we doing this? Okay, this is because I want her to thrive and have the most successful life she possibly can. And that's intricately connected to the attachment that the mother specifically and the mother and father have with the child. And breastfeeding is, I think, the biggest tool for facilitating that attachment and providing that inner security for that child. Not just on like a theory level, but on a very practical level, how important breastfeeding was in creating that attachment, that bonding, and the comfort. And so when Honor, our daughter, would get hurt in some way, whether it was falling down or whatever it was, she was in distress and she was scared. And breastfeeding was a quick way that she would be soothed and calmed and comforted and feel safe. And so that was probably the biggest thing that I experientially found as like, wow, this is beautiful and so good. Like, there's such comfort and safety found in breastfeeding when there's such big distress. So it's like kind of a big superpower.
We're providing co-regulation. They literally talk about it as like us lending our nervous system to the child, and when they have the experience of connection with us over and over and over again, where we're actually physically there, that's how they then internalize those functions and naturally can do them on their own. It's like you have to teach something before someone can know how to do it.
When we get into our amygdala part of our brain, our fight, flight, or freeze, it's not good for any of us to hang out there very long, much less a baby or a young child. So when you bring in breastfeeding, if there's some fight, flight, or freeze happening, that gets settled very quickly, and bringing someone back to regulation is exactly what you want. That's what we want. And so developing the neural networks to be regulated with the help of a parent for as long as you need it is going to help them in the future
Then they have those
self-regulate. It's
then
not
they
like
have those neural
spoiling them
networks.
and preventing them from doing it on their own. It's actually building the right neural networks so they can do it on their own in the future. So that they won't be avoidantly attached or anxiously attached, but securely attached. And we're going for secure attachment. And when you're older,
You
that secure
internalize that.
attachment exists inside of you. And that's the Shazam of breastfeeding.
Despite these hugely beneficial effects breastfeeding offers, most mothers fall short of reaching their goals of being able to breastfeed as they had planned. But it's not their fault. There's a lot working against us. According to the World Health Organization, breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure child health and survival. However, nearly 2 out of 3 infants are not exclusively breastfed for the recommended 6 months, a rate that has not improved in 2 decades. This is similar to the results we see in the US, again from the AAP report. Unfortunately, 60% of mothers in the United States report that they do not breastfeed as long as they intended to, citing issues with the latch, the infant's weight, or concerns about medications. Other studies show that unsupportive work policies, cultural norms, and lack of parental or family support are barriers to breastfeeding, indicating a need to improve support for breastfeeding families. A 2022 WHO report shows studies investigating how misleading marketing reinforces myths about breastfeeding and breast milk and undermines women's confidence in their ability to breastfeed successfully. UNICEF and WHO maintain that the $55 billion formula milk industry uses systematic and unethical marketing strategies to influence parents' infant feeding decisions and exploitative practices that compromise child nutrition and violate international commitments. This report shows very clearly that formula milk marketing remains unacceptably pervasive, misleading, and aggressive. The report found not only that industry marketing techniques included unregulated and invasive online targeting, but also sponsored advice networks and helplines, offered promotions and free gifts, and influenced health workers' training and recommendations.
My doctors, nobody ever really pushed for breastfeeding at all. It was more like, here's some formula, try this out. Instead, it was never like, you should breastfeed, breastfeeding's better.
Yeah, I usually hear girls tell me that too, like on the internet, like we talk and stuff, and they'll be like, my doctor has told me just to go on formula. Like every girl on the internet has told me that.
I mean, I did still try that with every kid, but my nipples was just so sore, I thought it was just something I couldn't do. Yeah, so I would usually try for about a week, and then they would just get so sore, I would just eventually give up just because it was easier. And people made it seem easier. I would just bottle feed, it's easier, and then you don't have to worry about any of that. So I would just give up.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Mm-hmm. No, I guess I also felt like when I was younger too that maybe the formula was better for the baby. I mean, obviously you would think breast milk is, but you just hear so much about formula. I just felt like formula probably had more iron and or the better nutrients because, as a young mom, you don't eat the best, so maybe the formula was better for them. Which now I know is not the truth.
Women of color just do not have access to this information. Or people who don't have money, or poor people, I'm sure they don't have access to this. My daughter had a lot of issues with breastfeeding. I was crying unconsolably because I thought, this is the one thing I'm supposed to have. Giving birth, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm supposed to be able to feed my child. That's what I'm supposed to be able to do. And that felt so strongly for me. I want to do this and I cannot do this. I am a failure. This is not working. What am I doing wrong? Like, how can I change this? And because they were talking to me about it, like, do you want to just do formula? Yeah. You want to just do formula? It's so much easier.
I was with the WIC program, but they were quick to offer formula. That was their solution. Well, just do formula. They had lactation consultants to just help me latch. That was it. They never said to me, "Oh well, your supply is decreasing because you're not feeding as much." They didn't say that to me. I didn't have that information, and their solution was, "Okay, well, here's some formula." There was no, how can, what's happening here? Why is your milk decreasing? How can we get you to increase your breast milk so that you can continue to nurse to where, the time that you want?
Alternatively, women who are supported in breastfeeding are 2.5 times more likely to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months.
All the overwhelm, all the, I can't figure this out, it's painful, I'm, sick and it's not working, and above everything for me was the lactation consultant work. It really provided me a bridge to what I could tell I was certain I wanted to accomplish, but had no idea how to get there.
The biggest thing I think for me was having someone in my corner saying, we are going to figure this out. And so Sarah was huge in me believing that this was possible.
Because I had so much support in breastfeeding, it felt natural. I felt confident in it. I felt like I could stand up for myself when people made weird comments out in public, and even emboldened to feed my child in a public place.
Formula is an alternative option to feed babies with. It was developed as an emergency food source for babies when they cannot be fed human milk for whatever reason. There is no doubt that there is a place for alternative feeding options for families based on their choice, abilities, and circumstances. That is not in question. Now, however, we are at a point in history where the majority of infants in the world end up being fed with formula rather than human milk. Who are the winners in this scenario? The multi-billion-dollar formula companies. They are capitalizing on all of this. Despite clear evidence that exclusive and continued breastfeeding are key determinants of improved lifelong health for children, women, and communities, far too few children are breastfed as recommended. If current formula milk marketing strategies continue, that proportion could fall still further, boosting companies' profits. Being critical of our society's lack of support for breastfeeding and being critical of formula and formula companies' predatory marketing should not be conflated with being critical of the mothers who choose to feed their babies formula. No mother should be shamed or disrespected for her choice, ever. There are a wide variety of reasons why people need to choose how and what they do for their babies. Each person's choice and abilities should be respected. Each mother should also be given the option to have support to choose how she feeds her baby. This includes being provided the option of getting good information and skilled lactation support if she's having challenges with breastfeeding. Mothers with low milk supply should also be supported to have the option to still breastfeed their babies even if it's only partially. The lack of access to information and skilled lactation support is a travesty to mothers and babies everywhere. So breastfeeding rights need advocacy as a public health and social justice issue.
It's not something for someone to sell us on the side. This is ours. We should own it. We should build that connection with our child because it's ours, not because, we can consume it or show it off on Instagram.
I have a lot of pride in knowing that not only did I create, a person, a human being for 9 months, but I can feed my baby and continue to nourish them for far longer, and how precious that is, that no one can do that. I'm, as a mom, I can do that. I can create life and I can nourish that life and set my child in a good, healthy course by nursing them.
This is a time in our society where women are really demanding to have control over their bodies again and are taking that back. And I hope that, everything that's happening in the Supreme Court is sort of the catalyst to have the pendulum swing the other way and have women really, really, really take back, consent over our own bodies, and part of that is the right to mother and nurse our children for as long as we want,
So here's the take-home message. It's about consent. Make your own choice and do it with informed consent. You should be the one who decides what happens with your body and with your baby, and you deserve the support to reach your goals. So don't let the choice be made for you or taken from you.
The advice that Sarah gave me, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts because you are the specialist on that baby. No matter what anyone tells you, listen to your heart and seek support. And find a group. Find a group of like-minded people. Don't think you have to do this alone.
In this Breastfeeding with Sarah channel, I will share what I've learned from helping countless breastfeeding families reach their goals. I'll be providing detailed educational videos to map out how to establish and maintain a successful breastfeeding relationship and help overcome barriers that may come up along the way. Come join us. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to be a part of the Breastfeeding with Sarah community.